Greetings, humanity! Today is Friday, March 6th, 2026. Let's Grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner, using Grok each weekday to help me search out and to summarize the biggest headlines in the news today. You also get the unparalleled benefit of this observer's opinions. We briefly review a roundup of the most critical reports in the world, but first, and mostly, in this special report, we have a deep dive into today's top story right after this. God with Us, the story of Jesus, is a full blending of all the Gospels into one continuous narrative that misses nothing from the Savior's life. Inspired by the majestic text of the King James Bible, God with Us is adapted to modern language, formatted for easy reading, a faithful paraphrase, divided into brief stories, fit for daily Bible studies. This book was fully researched to present the story of Jesus from his birth to his ascension. Find God with Us by Robert Gardner. That's me, at Amazon.com or wherever books are sold. And now, let's grok the most important news in the world today, starting with our lead story. From Tehran, the United States and Israel have escalated their military campaign against Iran into its seventh day, unleashing intense airstrikes, missile barrages, and what President Trump has framed as steps toward regime change in Tehran. Operation Epic Fury, as termed by U.S. sources, and Israel's parallel Operation Roaring Lion, have targeted Iranian military infrastructure, including underground missile bases, IRGC facilities, that's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard control facilities, drone production sites, and naval assets. Heavy bombing rocked Tehran overnight, with residents describing it as the worst night of Israeli strikes so far, while satellite imagery confirmed repeated hits on a school and nearby military base, prompting investigations pointing toward likely U.S. responsibility. Well, it's war. In the Persian Gulf, U.S. forces sank an Iranian drone carrier naval vessel and deployed. This is basically a ship about the size of an old-school aircraft carrier that deploys drones. Well, the U.S. was using improved copies of one-way kamikaze drones against targets deep in Iran, backed by B-2 stealth bombers and B-1 Lancer strategic bombers. This is big. President Trump has issued stark ultimatums, offering Iranian forces immunity if they defect or guaranteed death if they resist, and stating he expects to approve Iran's next supreme leader after Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, whose succession has become a focal point of the conflict. Various people in the regime are wanting either the Ayatollah's son or grandson to be the next leader. Trump has urged Iranian diplomats to seek asylum and has declared the regime's total defeat is inevitable. Iran intensified strikes on Beirut and southern Lebanon, hitting Hezbollah-linked targets, causing over 120 deaths in the latest wave, nearly 500,000 evacuating the southern areas amid panic and mass displacement. Iran retaliated with ballistic missiles and drones toward Gulf states. Saudi Arabia intercepted many, but Bahrain reported damage, and Iran claimed strikes on Israeli-linked sites there. Globally, the conflict is already inflicting severe economic pain. Oil prices have surged as the Strait of Hormuz faces threats, disrupting shipping and forcing Asian carriers to see booking rushes and soaring fares, while Middle East hubs shut down. China expresses deep concern over its own regional ambitions. India grapples with fuel and remittance shocks, and analysts warn that the war could drag on or become a new forever war. Casualties continue to mount in Tehran and Beirut, tens of thousands scrambling for those evacuation flights. Kurdish opposition groups have signaled a readiness to assist U.S. efforts on the ground, while Iran's allies, Russia and China, have remained largely distant. The U.S. Senate has backed Trump's actions, denying a Democrat push for a war powers resolution on Iran's behalf. As sirens sound across Israel after brief lulls and Gulf airspace remaining volatile, the risk of broader regional spillover, including potential Houthi involvement or further Hezbollah escalation, looms large in the minds of those who worry professionally. World leaders and markets are watching closely. And so are we. Now we grok the headlines from around the world. Dateline Washington, D.C. President Trump has retasked Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem with a new job, leading Western Hemisphere efforts to destroy the powerful terrorist drug cartels, following a controversial and tumultuous tenure marked by Senate hearings and contract disputes. Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin has been named as her replacement. Democrats expressed exhilaration at her departure, while critics highlighted luxury spending, policy missteps. This observer thinks their rejoicing may be premature. Noem may well be a victim of deep state undermining of her tenure, as some claim, but Trump obviously still has some important work for her to do. And folks who thought it might be greener with somebody else are going to discover that Markwayne Mullin is no pushover. Dateline Washington, D.C. Republican Representative Tony Gonzales has dropped out of his re-election runoff after admitting an affair with a staffer, dealing another blow to the GOP ranks amid scandal. When are public people going to learn that they can't act like private people without public consequences? Dateline Austin, Texas. Heroic Austin police officers stopped an armed shooter on March 1st, Nagaya Janye, who wore a shirt reading "Property of Allah" during a shooting attack at a bar. Body cam footage released yesterday showed the rapid response. This observer wonders why Austin officials were unable to consider the obvious motive in early reports. These days it's almost always Islamic or transgender terrorism. Dateline Caracas, Venezuela. The United States and Venezuela have agreed to resume full diplomatic and consular ties following the U.S. abduction of narco-terrorist socialist dictator Nicolas Maduro, signaling a new era in long-strained relations. Dateline Budapest, Hungary. Hungarian authorities are holding 7 Ukrainian bank employees and approximately $80 million in funds, raising fresh financial and diplomatic tensions linked to the ongoing Ukraine conflict. This observer will tell you that Ukraine is practically at war with NATO member Hungary, cutting off their fuel supplies. But the European globalists hate Hungary's Viktor Orban and are letting Zelensky act with impunity against their neighbor and ally. Dateline, really, with friends like NATO, who needs enemies? Dateline California. Pop icon Britney Spears was arrested in California on suspicion of driving under the influence, marking the latest legal trouble for the troubled singer. This observer doesn't understand what makes this a world news headline. This is a dog bites man story, not a man bites dog story. This will make no difference to your life or mine. I will have to talk to Grok about this selection. Dateline West Papua. Scientists have discovered, or rediscovered, one should say, a tiny possum and glider species, previously believed extinct for 6,000 years in a remote region, offering a major boost for biodiversity conservation efforts. This observer will be pardoned for saying that this is not a story about conservation efforts. This is a story about scientists discovering that their speculations were wrong and having to correct their theories. But that is how science is done. Dateline Ecuador. Ecuadorian troops working with Americans have uncovered a massive 35-meter-long narco submarine hidden in a nature reserve, and this deals a significant blow to the drug trafficking networks. And Dateline Washington, D.C. NASA has announced significant changes to its Artemis moon landing program, including a new preparatory test mission before crewed lunar expeditions return humanity to the moon. I thank you for listening. Please join me Monday to once again grok the news. I'm Robert Gardner. Godspeed and God bless.